5 friends traveled deep into the thick Tennessee woods, heading toward an old, half-forgotten cabin that one of them had discovered on a map. Ash Williams sat quietly in the back of the car, watching the dense trees swallow the sunlight as they drove further from civilization. Beside him was his girlfriend, Linda, humming softly. Scott, or Scotty, drove the car with Cheryl and Shelley in the back, all joking and laughing, completely unaware of what waited for them at the end of the road. As the trail narrowed, the atmosphere changed. The trees leaned closer, the wind grew sharper, and even the sunlight dimmed as if the forest was warning them to turn back. When they finally reached the cabin, it looked lifeless and abandoned, boards sagging, porch broken, a single swing tapping against the wall though there was no breeze. Still, Scotty insisted they explore inside. The moment Scotty opened the old, creaking door, it slammed back against the wall with a violent thud, as if the cabin exhaled after decades of holding its breath. Inside, it smelled of old wood, mold, and something metallic, something buried under the floorboards. Dust floated through the shafts of fading light. The cabin had only one rule: never disturb what sleeps beneath it. The group unpacked and settled in, playing cards, fixing dinner, and laughing at the absurdity of the place. But Cheryl, Ash's sister, felt uneasy from the start. She kept glancing at the dark corners of the rooms, as though she sensed something moving just beyond sight. As night descended, the cabin felt tighter, smaller, and the silence grew unnaturally heavy. Later, while exploring the basement, Scotty discovered something strange: a tape recorder, an old rusted shotgun, and an ancient-looking book bound in what looked disturbingly like dried skin. Intricate symbols and grotesque faces were carved into the surface. The friends gathered around the recorder, curiosity overpowering fear. When Scotty pressed play, a crackling voice echoed through the room. It belonged to an archaeologist who once studied the cabin and the dark forces surrounding it. His voice trembled as he described finding the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon, a book from ancient Sumerian rituals used to summon demons and spirits. As the tape continued, the archaeologist began reading incantations from the book. Cheryl shouted for them to stop, but the recording played on, and the forest outside seemed to hold its breath. A chilling wind blew through the windows. The floorboards trembled. Something awakened. From that moment, the cabin was no longer just a cabin. It became a gate. Later that night, Cheryl sat alone drawing when her hand stiffened unnaturally. Her pencil dug violently into the paper, sketching an image she couldn't control, a crude outline of the Book of the Dead. When she looked at what she had drawn, the pencil snapped in her shaking hand. Terrified, she stepped outside to breathe, but the woods no longer felt like woods. The trees seemed alive, bending toward her, whispering. The darkness shifted like silhouettes moving in the corner of her eyes. Suddenly, branches wrapped around her like living ropes, dragging her deeper into the forest. She screamed and fought, cutting her arms on sharp twigs as the trees pulled tighter. The forest violated her, invaded her, and tried to claim her, whispering guttural voices that sounded older than mankind. She barely escaped, running back to the cabin in tears. Ash tried to calm her, but Cheryl demanded they leave immediately. When Ash attempted to drive her back to town, the only road out was destroyed. The bridge twisted like taffy, as if something had chewed through steel. They were trapped. Cheryl broke down. Something had marked her, something that now wanted her completely. Back at the cabin, things escalated. The voices grew louder. Shadows moved with purpose. A cold presence hung over them like smoke. Cheryl suddenly went still, staring at nothing, then turned her head slowly toward the others. When she spoke, her voice was no longer hers. It was a guttural, ancient growl, mixed with laughter. Her body twisted, bones cracking as if her limbs had new masters. She taunted them, revealing secrets she shouldn't have known. Then she lunged at Linda with supernatural strength, stabbing at her with a pencil. Ash dragged Cheryl away, trying not to hurt her, but she was no longer human. Her eyes were white and lifeless. She levitated, screaming spells and curses, before collapsing. Scotty managed to trap her in the cellar, slamming the door shut just as she clawed at him with inhuman force. The locked trapdoor shook violently as Cheryl pounded from below, laughing and snarling like a beast. Real terror began. One by one, the evil presence targeted the group. Shelley was next. She wandered into a dark room, drawn by whispers. Suddenly, A demonic force overtook her, twisting her face into a mocking grin. She attacked Scotty with a ferocity no human could possess. After a brutal struggle, Scotty dismembered her to stop the demon's relentless assault. Limbs hit the floor, twitching independently, the demon laughing through the severed head. Scotty was never the same after that. Panic consumed him. He grabbed weapons and supplies, insisting on leaving the woods on foot. He vanished into the night without waiting for Ash or Linda. Hours later, he stumbled back into the cabin covered in blood, his body slashed from tree branches, his strength fading. He whispered that the woods were alive and everything out there wanted them dead before collapsing. Linda, sweet and gentle Linda, had been clinging to Ash throughout the nightmare. But the evil was patient. It chose its moments carefully. A small cut on her ankle became the entry point. Soon she started humming in a childlike voice, sitting on the floor, moving her head in unnatural jerks. When Ash approached her, she suddenly lunged, stabbing him with a dagger. He pushed her off, only to watch her face transform into a dead, smiling mask. Her laughter was deranged, echoing through the cabin like a broken music box. Ash stabbed her, but she didn't die. She only giggled, grabbing his leg. With trembling hands and tears streaming down his face, Ash took her outside and buried her. But the evil wouldn't let him mourn. Linda clawed her way out of the grave moments later, her body twisted, her skin pale, her voice mocking. She attacked him again, forcing Ash to dismember the woman he loved to stop the demon possessing her. By then, Ash was the last survivor. Inside, the cabin shook violently. The cellar door burst open as Cheryl climbed out, her body contorted. Scotty, now reanimated by the evil force, rose to his feet again. Both attacked Ash from different sides. Ash fought with everything he had, axes, knives, the shotgun, but the demons kept coming, their bodies refusing to stay dead. Desperate, Ash noticed the Book of the Dead lying near the fireplace. Remembering that the archaeologist had said fire might weaken the demons, Ash grabbed the book while the monsters clawed and tore into him. Cheryl scratched his legs until they bled. Scotty bit his arm. Ash struggled toward the fireplace, dragging the demons with him. With one final scream, he threw the cursed book into the flames. The reaction was immediate. Scotty froze mid-attack, his skin bubbling like melting wax. Cheryl's body twisted into impossible shapes as both demons shrieked, voices layered and ancient, while their flesh dissolved. Blood spilled, bones broke, and their bodies collapsed into ash and slime. The cabin trembled violently. A final gust of wind exploded through the windows. Then everything fell silent. Ash looked around, shaking uncontrollably, covered in blood and dust. The nightmare seemed over. Dawn finally approached. He stepped outside, exhausted, barely able to breathe. The sun rose slowly, but it felt unreal, as though the world itself wasn't sure he deserved to see morning. Ash walked toward the trail, trying to leave the cursed land behind him. But just as he reached the clearing, a shadow rushed toward him with incredible speed, the same evil force, now free from the pages of the book. It slammed into him with a deafening roar, and the screen of his life faded to black,